So this unit, we're going to be talking about the First Amendment right. However, we are going to cover the First Amendment today and tomorrow, and then the rest of this unit, we're actually going to be focusing on freedom of the press. So your First Amendment rights, there are a lot of rights listed in this one amendment, and it is the First Amendment in the Constitution. So we're going to go over a little bit today, and we're going to finish up this PowerPoint in a separate ed puzzle tomorrow. So this includes the 5 freedoms. Like I said, the First Amendment has a lot of freedoms within it. It is the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom of petition. Petition basically means that you can complain about something within the government, have people agree with you, sign off on a petition in order to make changes within your government. So it basically allows you as a citizen to have a voice. Freedom of speech and press. This is what our whole final unit is going to be about. So we're going to cover it a little bit today, and we're going to continue working on it throughout the rest of the school year. So free speech, in your opinion, what types of speech should not be covered by the First Amendment, and why? So when you have freedom of speech, you're allowed to say really whatever you want. However, freedom of speech doesn't cover all speech. So your first question that you're going to write is actually answering this one on the screen. In your opinion, what types of speech should not be covered by the First Amendment, and why? One case study that we have here is about the Westboro Baptist Church. If you have never seen them, they are usually the group of people that would show up to funerals or major public demonstrations, and they are anti-gay protesters. A lot of times they'll talk about how this person who might have died for heroic reasons, they deserve to burn in hell because they were considered a sinner. They're really kind of a rough group of people that protest a lot of major events. So this is one of those case studies. This is an example of, should this speech actually be protected under the Constitution? So for the First Amendment, these are some of the limitations. Some of the limitations in freedom of speech is seditious speech, which means advocating or wanting to overthrow the government by force. That is not protected. Obscenity, so sexually offensive material, that sometimes can be a gray area that might be defined by a court, but if you are using obscene language or you're describing things in an obscene way, that isn't really protected by the Constitution. Fighting words, anything that is provoking or resulting in violence, that is not protected by the Constitution. Something called libel, so making false statements or using malicious, which means really mean, offensive language. If it's written, that is libel. Slander is the same thing, either using false or malicious words, but you're speaking them, you're saying them about somebody. And then false advertising, providing misleading information to consumers. So if you're saying that a certain product could help you lose weight, and in reality, it doesn't actually do that. That's not what that product can actually do. That's false advertising. Seditious speech, we are free to criticize the government, but may not advocate or attempt to overthrow it by force. And you must prove imminent danger or threat to apply. So if the government is attacking people, then you can talk about wanting to overthrow the government, and that would be protected. But if you're not in that world and you're talking about overthrowing the government, that is seditious speech. That is not protected by the Constitution. There was a court case, that's Schenck versus United States. This established the clear and present danger test. So these are the questions that were basically had to be proven in order for this to be protected. Do the circumstances surrounding the speech create a clear and present danger? So if that does create a clear and present danger, this is when it's a problem. So for example, if you are in a movie theater and you shout fire in a crowded movie theater, that creates a certain amount of danger, and that is not something that is protected by the Constitution. You can say that, well, I had free speech, I can say whatever I want. That's not true. That provided a dangerous atmosphere for people. Obscenity. Offensive sexual content that violates certain standards is not protected under the First Amendment. But what is obscene? This has been a gray area, and the court has evolved its standard over time. As the years go by, everyone will have a different definition of obscenity. 70 years ago, in the 1950s, what people thought of as obscene is very different than what they think of now. And we actually have cracked down a lot more on things that are obscene. What do you think? If you read through the case summary, which is Miller versus California, which we're going to see later, you're going to write an opinion about it, and we're going to probably answer questions about this particular case that talks about obscene language and sort of how that's changed over time. Miller versus California, this is the particular case. The court sets a three-part standard to determine whether or not something is considered obscene. So 1, applying a community standards. Does the work excite lust in an unnatural way? So is this creating some type of scene where there's like this sexual tension that's being created for really no reason? That's not good for the environment that it's in. Does the work depict sexual content in a patently offensive way? So a lot of things that might be deemed as pornography because of the photo, or something that might be included, like a description that is portraying some type of obscene scene or like language, that's an issue. And does the work lack artistic, scientific, literary, or political value? If it doesn't have value because it's artwork, or if it might be used scientifically, like in research, if there's no actual value to this, then at that point, this is just obscene, and it's not adding anything to our culture or to a classroom or to a work environment. Last one for today, fighting words. Insults likely to incite physical fighting or breach the peace, they are not covered by the Constitution. So this is according to Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire. However, just because someone is upset by an individual's ideas does not mean the speaker will be punished. Okay, so if you get in a verbal altercation with somebody, doesn't necessarily mean that because you guys are arguing, somebody's going to get arrested. What's important is to know, like, there is a limit of being upset and how you express some of your anger. And there's a certain amount that might be accepted. And then there's another level where it's no longer okay. So for example, you can make hateful claims about a religious group and not be punished by the government. Like if you say something like the Westboro Baptist Church, that they are a really difficult group, they're not that kind to people. What I just said clearly isn't that bad or offensive. It's okay. Even though if I said that to that group, they might find this as a big problem. But if you make threats against that group, that is not covered. So there's a fine line. So I might be able to say certain words, but if I say something even worse, which I'm not even going to say, about the Westboro Baptist Church, and I make a threat towards that group, that is no longer covered. All right, tomorrow we're going to be finishing up this PowerPoint.